So today I'm gonna be putting the George T. Stagg from 2023, which I have already reviewed, tasted here on the channel. I'm gonna be putting it against my current favorite bottle. At least impressionistically speaking, right? Like this, in theory, like if I like Stagg Junior, like the George T. Stagg should be in theory my favorite, but I think I still prefer the Stagg Junior for some reason. So I really wanted to see if that's the case or not, and or why. Why is that the case? So I'm gonna pour. This is the Stagg Junior that I got last year, so batch 22A. And yeah, this is, as I've said in the other video, the consensus seems to be that this is not a very good batch for, it wasn't a very good year for Justy Stagg, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna find out, I guess. Let me just get some water. Alright, so the Stagg Junior on the nose. So the Stagg Junior is 66.1 ABV, and George T. Stagg 67.5. So in theory, they're not very different proof-wise. I mean, and in practice too, they're not very different. Like dark fruits, stewed dark fruits. It's very powerful, right? A very strong, dense. You can sense again that it's going to be a very thick, viscous whiskey. Some brighter, like sweet notes as well. That kind of reminds you of like a custard, or it's very desserty in that sense, right? But more on the bright side. It's dark. It's a very dark whiskey, right? It's known for that, but you're also getting some brighter notes, right? If that makes any sense, like that synesthetic element of things, right? Because you're using, again, like you're comparing, or you're using visual metaphors to talk about flavors or aromas, not flavors, but smell, right? So vision to talk about smell, which is very interesting. But that is indeed what this reminds me of. Like dark and bright at the same time. Like there's some like a sparkling element to the like top layer of the whiskey, I guess. So let me write that down. So stewed fruits, like stewed dark fruits, like some cherries, some blackberries. Not blackberry, no, that doesn't make sense. No, like cherries and No, but I'm not getting plum, right? So maybe just cherry. Yeah, stewed cherries. Some bright notes as well. What else? It's interesting that Stagg Junior, like on the back, the label says that it's supposed to remind you of a port, and it does in a way remind me of like a tawny. Some peach as well. Maybe some orange. All right. How about the George T. Stagg? The George T. Stagg feels like, just by looking at it, feels less viscous. Getting like a tea. Like black tea note. It feels like right off the bat that there's less going on than in the Stagg Junior. Is that possible? I don't know, but that's what it feels to me. There's a tangy, like weird licorice. Yeah, I'm gonna say licorice. Like, kind of reminds me of like when you're walking in an old house and the floors had been like waxed, uh, just very recently, like freshly waxed, like some leather. Yeah, so it does remind me of like leather. So maybe, I'm picking up some more notes, and maybe more interesting notes than more like weirder, that you wouldn't really, that I'm not really getting from the so the Stagg is more traditional, maybe. The cherry is there, but it feels more like an artificial. I wouldn't say medicinal, but an artificial, like, again, like weird kind of cherry, artificial cherry. That you would get from like a one of those Ferrero products, right? Like a Moncherie, more than like this, which the Stagg, like the cherries feel like like you're eating a cherry pie, maybe, right? Like cherry paste, like fresh cherries with sugar. It's not what I'm getting in the George T. Stagg. So anyway, the nose. Let's rate the nose. I would say the nose on both of these is very, very interesting. So I give a 95 to didn't I? 93 to the Dalmore and 95 to the Pappy. I'm gonna give a 93 to the George D. Stagg and a 90 to the Stagg Junior. I do feel that like it's a more unique experience what you're getting from the George D. Stagg. Is it like significantly better? No, but at the same time, it's not really going for the same thing as the other one. Yeah, they're very different. Very, very different, right? If this is supposed to be the grandpa, it doesn't work because they don't seem to really belong to the same family at all. It's not to me. I don't know. I mean, anyway, on the palate. Yeah, this is a lot more traditional. My God. Mm. They just race through your palate like all these flavors. Wow. Such a beautiful, beautiful whiskey. The finish, like, mm, you really feel the proof, right, towards the back of the palate and going down your esophagus, I guess. Love it. Like, now, is there like a lot going on flavor wise, right? Because what I'm describing is more of a tactile, textural sort of experience. Flavor wise, the vanillas, I think, come out, right? So the brightness that I was talking about earlier makes itself felt on the palate. Not getting a lot of the dark fruits, or I didn't get a lot of the dark fruits on this sip, so let's try again. Yeah, and going back to it. Yeah. Wow. Just makes it just accentuates those brighter notes even more. Yeah, it does remind you of like a port, but taken to a completely different level, right? Like, I think if you like port, this is like 10 times better, more impactful, more powerful. Right, but it does remind you of like the dark fruits sort of disappear on the palate, I think. So the cherries become like the dark stewed cherries become just, they are still there, right? But they are like um just you know those like light red cherries that you would eat like by themselves, right? That's what it's reminding me of, right? So not the cherry pie um, that you were getting at like on the nose. So yeah, sure, still so cherries, but fresh cherries, strong vanilla, like custard. But yeah, the definitely like what's most noticeable, what's most like what's sticking out here is, well, as I said, the texture, right? Texture-wise, this is like, as people normally say, like Stagg just hits you with like brute force, and that's sort of what you're getting here, right? It's just a very like impactful sort of drink. Now, the George T. Stagg. Yeah, this feels just more unique, maybe more like just different. Not really the same, as I said, not the same family. I feel that if I stayed here for a little longer, I could pick out more flavors on the nose. But that licorice still there, but it's swift. It's veering towards like still we're still in gummy land, but it's going towards like cherry gummies, if that makes any sense, right? Like the cherries that I said artificial cherry on the nose, right? So cherry gummies is like what's replacing, I think, the licorice, right? The licorice is mutating or mutated and turned into something a little sweeter. It's not as like that brute force that I talked about in relation to the Stagg. It's not really there, which like I do prefer the Stagg in that regard, right? Maybe the finish, like if you're talking about like how long it lasts, I think the George T. Stagg might last longer and might linger in the back of your palate for longer. The Stagg just has like a more like as I said, that brute force that that you get, right? Like you're still feeling its hulking presence, there, right? Like when you're done drinking it, it might dissipate faster, though. We'll see. George T. Stagg again on the palate. Mm. Mm. Vanilla. I think the cherry gummies take over, and it's the tongue that's being stimulated the most, I feel, not the back of the palate or the mouth in general. I think it's the tongue that gets affected the most. There's a little bitterness there that I don't love. It's a little tannic, probably because it's older. How old is George T. Stagg? I don't know. And they don't tell you, right? You can figure it out online, but they don't tell you. But it's, I believe, closer to what, 12 years? Something like that. And the Stagg is what, 6? That might be completely wrong, honestly. But I do feel like I prefer, let's try it again. Let's just one last time. but I do feel I prefer the Stagg on the palate. Well, that's good news, right? Like, I mean, of course, this is a particular batch, but you can find Stagg much more easily. This was also one of my first like premium bottles, right? That I got last year. The only like real fancy bottle that I had purchased before this was the Wild Turkey 12. So this was, yeah, it's still my baby, you know. But I'm not trying to just go out of my way to defend it. So if it loses, it loses against the George Stagg. I have no problem with that. But the no, Jesus, my God, man. If you love bourbon, this is like the quintessential, or, you know, not the quintessential, but, you know, quintessential bourbon, right? Like, there might be better bourbons, you know, I'm sure, but maybe in my collection, that's the best one I have. I don't know, the one I like the most. Mm. It's just so sweet. Sweet, but not like, wow, you know, just sweet. No, of course, you know, the sweetness is just pervading all of these different flavors that are, you know, again, like traditional bourbon flavors. They're not, there's nothing like super different, right? It's the vanillas, it's the cherries, but it's just like, wow, dialed up to 11. If that even works in English, I don't know. Dialed up to 100, maybe that's probably how that expression goes. But you know what I'm going for here. Yeah, this is just more of its own thing, the George T. Stagg. So it has that going for it. Like on the nose, I gave it a 93. That's probably like, it's probably unfair. Let's bump it up to, let's bump it up to a 95. Now the palate. No. It is more bitter, more tannic. The cherry gummies are there, right? The oak, the vanilla. But I think I prefer the palate of the Stagg, right? Like that uniqueness that you were getting. I remember Matt from ADHD Whiskey saying that, right? That it doesn't really deliver on what it's promising on the nose, right? It promises a really unique nose, and then what you get is not really what you would expect. So no, I don't love it. Don't love it as much as the Stagg Junior, right? So palate, this is best palate. The whiskey with the best palate I have in my collection, right? So I gave the Russell's 15 and 90. I feel that I feel that I prefer this to the Russell's 15. So I'm gonna go 95 on the palate. Palate of the George T. Stagg. Um, give the Knob Creek 18 an 87. I think I prefer the Knob Creek 18, to be honest. I'm gonna go 83. No, sorry, Jesus. Finish. Yeah, this is still I think my favorite bourbon. Mm. Yeah, it's the back of the throat that's being hit the most. Let's see, like, just the color of the Rusty Stagg just a lot browner. Like, it's brown, not as brown, but like, I don't know if you can see, right? No, you can see, but compare, like, if you compare the two of them, one is just the Stagg Junior is shinier and more leaning towards like a golden color, whereas the George T. Stagg is like browner, which does remind you of, like, again, a tawny port. The finish of the Stagg Junior feels like it feels that it goes away faster, maybe, than the George T. Stagg. That's a shame, Reno. I paid for this George T. Stagg $1,000, by the way. So secondary. So of course not the most expensive of the BTAC line. It's the tongue that's being hit, as I said, the most, like the sides of your tongue. Yeah, it stays with you longer. Now, I still think the Stagg is more impactful, right? So the impact is in any case greater, and the replicas or whatever, right? Like, if you, how does that work in English, right? Like, I forget, right? Like, if you have an earthquake, yeah, I forget what those are called, right? Like, if you have an earthquake, as you move away from the epicenter, like, the intensity is lesser and lesser. That's what you feel like. That's what seems to be happening with George the Stag. Is like a something powerful, an earthquake, and then it just dissipates very, just gradually dissipates. But the impact, even on the finish, is greater. So even though the finish of the George Stagg might be longer, it's not necessarily better, I don't think. So I will give it a 90 as well on the finish to the Stagg Junior. And then 88 to the George T. Staggs. All right, so final breakdown. Let's see what the final scores are. So the George T. Stagg got an 87, and the Stagg Junior got a 92. So yeah, George T. Stagg got the same score as the Knob Creek 18. Slightly lower than the Dalmore King Alexander III, which had been so far had been the highest rated whiskey among those I've scored, and still 2 points ahead of the Russell's 15. Russell's 15 had an 85, but 92, the Stagg Junior. This is still the best bottle I have in my collection, according to me. So yeah, that's probably not worth a lot, but this is still my baby. Love it. Very glad I got this at almost retail. No, I mean retail is I think a lot lower, but I got it at 120 or something, 130 plus tax. So hey, good stuff, man.